Oh, it is. It is. It's live. Okay,
Yeah.
and we are like a minute early, guys. What's going on?
That has to be a first, right?
I think so. Well, hi guys. I know there's lots of people in the chat. Fantastic to see you all, and welcome to our Thursday slot. Sorry to confuse the hell out of everybody. For those that are confused, the Tuesday show is staying where it is, but it's alternating between Zaheer and my channels. And then the weeks that it's on Zaheer's channel, I'm going to put a Thursday one out with a guest. So the guest slot is just moved to Thursdays. And for our first one, I am so pleased to say I've got my good friend Lonnie with me. How are you?
Hey, Nick. Hey, Zaheer. Man, it's a pleasure to join you guys. I always love it, man. Thanks so much for the invite.
Not a problem at all. It's been quite a while, actually. I mean, I know I've seen you on other channels. We've been doing the six-pack that I know a lot of my subscribers follow now. So it feels like I've seen you a lot, but it's been quite a while since you've been on this channel.
Yeah, I think it was like, it's been like, no, it's probably been like 6 months. You're right. Something like that. 5 to 6 months.
Flies. And in the meantime, your channel's doing really well. Your channel's taken off. You set up the six-pack thing, and that's been a huge success. It's been great to see.
Yeah, it's been fun, man. I've been trying to get a little more social. You know, like when I first started, I was kind of close, just like the reselling, right? Like when I first started YouTube, I was kind of just keeping to myself and didn't really talk to anybody outside of my little sphere. And then I think your show was one of the first ones I was ever on, and then kind of started branching out in the US, and man, it's been pretty rewarding there. Yeah, pretty awesome.
Yeah, exactly. I remember when I first started getting guests on, it made the whole thing so much more fun. Instantly, It was just, okay, this is cool.
Absolutely.
Made it.
Yeah. You guys are making me feel like missing out now, because I don't think I've ever had anyone on my channel yet.
Well, you should remedy that.
Yeah. Or doesn't Rebecca count?
Yeah, that counts, sort of. I know I've been on your channel. I was sat next to you.
Yeah, but that was different. That was someone actually commented, is Nick Zaheer and Beck gonna burst through the door? That would be quite amazing to do, considering I'm on the webcam as well. But
yeah, the video I managed to put up, if you've been in a cave for the last week, you won't know that Andrew and I went up to see Zaheer and we stayed for the weekend. We put out a few videos, and I released a vlog of the day, well, the weekend, yesterday. And that's got a really good response, actually. Lots of great comments on there. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, it has, definitely.
We have a topic of sorts for today, because we are trying to be organized. And we wanted to talk about, now, how do I describe it? Skills that when we started reselling, we had to learn, and skills that we've had from jobs we've had previous and in our previous lives that we've used or adapted for what we do in reselling. So what are your guys' thoughts on that? What have you thought about, Lonnie?
Well, we came up with this topic yesterday. I came up with like a real short list, and guys, I want to remind y'all that, like, I'm fairly new. I've only been doing this like 3 years. So I'm not approaching this from, like, hey, I'm an expert. This is just my experience and, kind of capturing what I've gone through. But one thing that I think you learn, or one thing that I think I really need to learn, probably a lot of us can do better at, is social networking, like using social networks to help market your products and not just rely on whatever platform you're on to do it. I've seen some like crazy success stories on like Instagram and Facebook and other places, and I feel like that is something that you have to learn today, and something I haven't learned yet. So
yeah,
I mean, what do y'all think about that?
Actually, before we delve into that further, I've been very rude and I haven't said hi to the chat. So before we
do that,
your point, let me just go in. I've got a good system and I managed to forget it today. First in today was Adam. Hi, Adam. He says hello, hello. We've got Lucy. Chelsea is in there. Bumcrack Picker has become my favorite username.
I think so. I think that's.
I love that. We've got Dr. Doodle Doo, Southwest Sellers. Hi, Gary. Lisa. Lots and lots of people popping in to say hi. So I guess the Thursday slot hasn't, we haven't lost our regulars, which is fantastic. Lots of people saying hi to you, Lonnie, which is good. Always welcome. Cats Rants is in there. Sib K, Blitz, who I managed to meet briefly when I was up at Zaheer's, so that's cool. So yeah, welcome everybody. If you do have questions as we go, please pop them in. We will try and keep an eye on the chat and answer them. So yeah, you made a good point actually about social media. It's only really in the last sort of 4 or 5 years I think that's become important. And I guess I'm still learning as I go, really. We talked recently about Instagram, and we're going to try and experiment selling on Instagram. But yeah, I barely scratched the surface with that. I use it more for searching for stock than I do selling it, to be honest.
Yeah, I think we've all, like the three of us all have, you know, some amount of reach via, you know, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all that. But I don't know that we're leveraging it properly against our sales, you know? And so, and I've seen other people that are like super successful. So that's why I made that number one on my list, is something to learn and something I haven't learned yet.
I think that's quite a good point. But it's one thing that's always worried me about that is I've always thought of when people market like are you talking about like just marketing your listings directly on other platforms or more than that? Because I've always thought when people just market, you know, here's my eBay listing and spamming your timeline, it'll just annoy people. And so that's why I've never thought about doing that.
I know exactly what you mean. Like all I've done with Instagram so far is I'm like, hey guys, check out this cool stuff I found. And I'll show like a picture of it. And I won't even say, get in touch with me or anything. I just like show a picture, you know, and then every now and then I'll get a message saying, hey, can I buy that? I'm like, well, gee, why didn't I make that an option to begin with?
Yeah.
Why didn't I say how much it is? And, you know, hey, if you're interested, and yeah, it is kind of spammy, but hell, people want to buy stuff.
It's interesting because I actually vocalized from the beginning. I didn't want to use my channel to promote my eBay page, and I've never advertised what it is. Most people have managed to find it by now, but I've never promoted my eBay listings or whatever. But then slowly but surely, people have started to just say to me, Nick, that thing you showed, can I buy it? And I've now had, I don't know, I'm not keeping up, maybe 10 sales through my YouTube channel without trying, totally without trying. So which gives us hope that doing it through Instagram, where we can share pictures of hauls and share some cool stuff, people will find those. And if we make it clear on there that we're selling, but I'm still not really comfortable using my YouTube as a platform to sell. It feels odd. It feels alien to me.
I think in a weird way, though, I don't know what you guys think about this, but in this particular topic, once the item's been listed, if you share the listing, I feel it's spammy. If you're just sharing what you pick up, we do that anyway on YouTube. And I tend to do, when I remember, I tend to share stuff on Instagram like that anyway, because I think what I've picked up is cool. I mean, I don't do it with every item, so I'm not going to do it with something that I pick up regularly. Like, so for example, I picked up a couple of Game Boy Advance SPs. For me, that's not something I would necessarily put, hey, I picked up some Game Boy Advances, because you pick them up, well, you know, quite often they're not that special. However, if I was to come across like a, I don't know, like a super rare console, like an Amiga CD32 or something that I was really pumped about finding, it would be on Instagram. I'd probably make a YouTube video about, look, I found it. I mean, I've done it with things before where I'm like, oh my God, look at what I found. Isn't this cool? Like I think I had a drum machine once and I was like, check out this drum machine. I was just sitting there pressing the drum button because it was...
But you know, Z, this is a mistake that I've made, I think, on YouTube and social networking. You said the Game Boy Advances, they're mundane, they're ordinary, but that's your perspective. I'll bet there's a lot of people in your audience that don't really know that much about them, you know, and they would actually find it would be interesting and informative to them. I mean, whether it's something you would enjoy sharing or not, that's a whole other, you know, whole other issue, I guess.
I'm interested to hear, are people finding, you know, random pictures of a game or whatever that you put up on Instagram, or is it just your followers that are seeing them? I honestly don't use Instagram yet, so I don't know how it all works.
People do tend to, like, I think it depends on what tags you put in, because I've noticed that depending on what tags you put in, like suddenly people that I don't think are following on YouTube, like they, you know, I think there's like a whole other community of people that just live on Instagram, isn't there?
Yes.
And I like they don't need YouTube. It's like for them, YouTube's probably old school. So it's, you know, they'll suddenly start following you. So you do get like a completely a new audience, which can only be a good thing.
I really need to get my ass on that platform and find out. But Andrea's grown quite a following already, just talking about mainly clothing, because I've not been on there sharing my finds and hauls. So I think there's huge potential. I just wanted to dip in the chat again because lots of people are saying hi. There's David McGregor. David McGregor's in there. He says he just wants to stroke Lonnie's beard, which is you take that how you like, Lonnie. Chicago Crown Hustlers in there. It says, hey, great to see some of the American resellers in there.
David McGregor actually has put in a new hashtag, Nick sounds like my granddad. I'm guessing that's to do with your lack of involvement with Instagram.
But you know me, if once I get on there, I'll figure it out, and I'll make the most out of it. I've no doubt eventually.
Exactly.
Gary's got an interesting question. Hello, quick one. It won't relate to Lonnie as much in America, but how does the eBay VAT affect sellers who are non-VAT registered? Basically, what's happened, Lonnie, if you don't know, is that in the UK, eBay now put VAT, which is value-added tax, onto their fees, which weren't there before. And how it affects us is it's just an extra tax. It's just an extra, whatever it is, 20% on top. If you are VAT registered, you can claim that expense back. If you're not, you've just got to swallow it, effectively. That's right, isn't it, Zaheer? I'm not confusing myself, am I?
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much. That sums it up. Yeah. So it's another 20% on top of the fee, the fees.
Yeah, out of the blue.
Is this something that brick and mortar has been having to pay all along, and it just finally made its way to online sales, or is this just a brand new thing altogether?
I think it's just that they've started. I think they've just migrated us all over to eBay UK, whereas it used to be eBay Europe, SAL. So they weren't based. So they weren't based in the UK, were they? They were based in Luxembourg or whatever. I don't know what it came up as.
eBay didn't apply VAT, and now they do.
So I'm guessing they're just being more,
VAT is a confusing one. Basically, any business that turns over, I think it's 85 grand now, 85 grand a year in the UK, has to charge this extra tax on everything they do. It's a pain in the butt. And when we had our shop, the first shop, the gaming shop, it just meant we just gave the government thousands and thousands of pounds because they asked for it. Simple as that. But yeah, VAT is a nightmare. Lots and lots of people in. Let's see what we've got. Oh, Jory's in there. Hi, mate.
Shout out to Idaho Hillbilly real quick. Hey, man.
Sorry. That's all right. Jory's saying eBay put HST on the fees here in Canada as well, an extra 13%, but he can claim it back. I don't know what HST stands for. Similar sort of tax, I guess.
Yeah.
There's a quick question for Zaheer before we get back to the topic. Pamela says, Zaheer, I have 2 vintage Nintendo consoles but don't know how to test them. Can I list them untested? What would you say?
You can, but it's not too difficult to test them, and it may well be, depending on what they are, it may well be worthwhile going on to eBay. As long as you've got the power supplier, you can buy the video cables relatively cheaply. So I'd be tempted to spend like the £3-4 or whatever it is to get a cheap set of cables and test it if you can, because it's worth it. Wouldn't you say so?
Yeah, I have a crappy little Alba TV here, an old school TV that I use to test consoles, and then a selection of leads so I can sort out most consoles.
Are we talking about like the original NES, you think?
Well, they didn't really say, but yeah.
If it's the original, then I think you'd have to use an RF, wouldn't you? An area, yeah.
The only thing is the original NES, man, like, I don't know about you guys, but my experience has been, if I buy 10 original NES consoles, I think one is going to work without me fiddling with it somehow.
I don't think I've ever bought 10, Lonnie. So.
Well, no, I'm just saying if I did, right?
It's a pretty bad rate. I reckon it's near a 50-50, and I bought many. When we had the gaming shop, we had loads.
They always seem to have bad pins, you know?
And they get the flashing light and all of that.
Yes.
Yeah, I reckon it was near a 50-50 when if I think back. But it can be a minefield. Definitely. I've still got a Spectrum here that I couldn't make run on any telly I've got with any lead. I even bought a SCART lead for it, and it was scrolling continually. I couldn't make it give a static picture on any telly. So it's still sat there and I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I think I'm just going to sell it as is and explain what it's doing. It's running, but the video signal is not static. I can't make it static.
Good Use Goods has actually made a good point. He's actually, yeah, it's true. The original NES does have RCA outputs on the side as well. So you can just get a standard RCA lead, which should be available, and you might actually have one at home, and use that to test it.
Is RCA the
red, yellow, and yellow, red, and white? So the yellow for the video, red and white for stereo sound. But I think the NES just has mono sound, so it'll just be the yellow, and then you'll pick either the red or the white, and then you plug the other end into your TV.
Remember that big gaming hall I had? I've got 3 NESs in that, and I haven't tested any of the hardware yet. So we'll see what the outcome is out of 3, how many I get working.
Yeah, let me know. Let me know without doing anything, without like cleaning the console or taking the pins out or anything like that. Let me know how you do.
Yeah, I'll have curious. Okay, so back to what we were saying about when we put out the question, what skills did we bring to reselling and what skills did we have to learn? Going along with that, the one thing that I remember I bought to it and then I had to learn to adapt it was customer service, because I have a history in retail. I worked for Virgin and R Price, which are record stores, and they were so customer centric that was all quite natural to me, to go out of your way, go the extra mile for customers. But then I just had to tweak that to learn how to deal with remote customers and dealing with the whole email and all of that stuff. It was just a slight shift. But having a background in customer service, I think, was a huge benefit for us when we got into Amazon particularly, and eBay as well, because that came naturally, because we had it drummed into us at Virgin that, the customer's always right, that sort of ethos, which isn't true. But yeah, that really helped. Did you guys was that a steep learning curve for you guys about the customer service element of it?
Actually, my job just prior to reselling full-time was with Apple. And it was tech support mostly over the phone. It's a little bit of online, but yeah, very customer centric company. And we did a lot of training on how to deal with customers. So yeah, that was pretty easy for me, pretty easy transition for me too.
So here, I guess it was similar for you, because you customer service background, haven't you, with high-end stuff as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think I took a couple of, I think things that I took from previous work to this was, customer service, definitely. I mean, I worked in retail as well. And, definitely you can adapt many things from that. And I think the main thing that you adapt, like you said, is apart from taking it from face-to-face to online, the main thing you take is how you react to things that don't go your way. Mm-hmm. So like you used to see the amount of times when you were in the shop where you knew you really didn't want to give a return to a customer, but you had to. And if you thought at some point, this must have happened to so many people, but I remember when I first started out in retail, sometimes I'd be like, no, it wasn't, there's nothing faulty with this. I can show you weren't using it correctly. And I'd show the item operating correctly to the customer right in front of them. But the customer had already lost trust in the item, because they were like, yeah, you can get it working here, but when I get it home, I'm not going to be able to get it working. And I'd be like, yeah, but that's just user error, and we don't offer returns for that. And then the manager would come over and be like, no, you refund the guy. And you'd be like, yep. You'd feel upset because you'd feel that you weren't being backed up by your company. But looking back in hindsight, I just realized it was all about the customer experience. And it doesn't matter that some spotty teenager can in 5 seconds make this thing work, that this this customer couldn't. The point is, because the customer couldn't, it was a bad customer experience, and it didn't matter whether you could make it work there and then. Their trust in that item was gone. Yeah. So
you're totally right. Yeah, it's all about maintaining that customer experience and the brand of the company. Keeping that positive is what we had drilled into us. I just need to dip in the chat, because Krillin has super chatted us $5, which is fantastic. And he says, YouTube might not be the best place to promote sales, going back to us selling our goods through YouTube.
Yeah.
Since we put what we paid on our vids. See, that's a sticking point for me, because it just feels odd. a lot of the things I have sold through YouTube, I said, you know, I picked this up for 50 pence, and then
Right.
message me and say, I want to buy it. And I'm like, well, I was going to list it for £10. Not this, I wouldn't, but you know, and you feel bad because they've seen how much you paid, but it's never stopped people buying it.
I think the comment afterwards is epic, though. It's like trying to find a girlfriend at your wife's job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do know what you're saying, Quillian, and I feel the same way. It does feel odd, but people are happy that they've seen an item, they know it's what they want, and if it's a fair price, people are happy to pay it, is what my experience so far.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So definitely, I definitely took that from it. I think that was one of the main things. And then the only other thing was I just had all this knowledge of hi-fi and stuff because of selling it, and just carried it on, you know. So
Yeah.
cheated.
Having worked in retail and seen the good, the bad, and the really ugly, it really prepared me for some of the crap you have to put up with regarding customer service. You know, some of the scammy stuff, some of the people making up reasons just to send it back at your expense. You know, I was kind of prepared for that going in, because I'd seen the sort of customers who come in and know they're just going to stand there and keep shouting at you until you give them their money back. I've had plenty of those. In Virgin, it was, if someone starts shouting and getting angry, you give them their money back as quick as you can to get them out.
Right.
I remember something really that stuck in my craw, like really annoyed me. Every World Cup or European Championship, and this must happen over in the States too, like at Super Bowl weekend, you'd get an influx of TV sales the day before the big games. And then after the weekend was over, magically all these people would have issues, like a higher percentage of people would have issues with their new TV that they just bought. You know, and you knew they just literally rented the big screen for the weekend, and yeah, for nothing. And you just had to, you were almost prepared for it.
Yeah.
I want to give one tip real quick, Zaheer, because y'all are talking about the retail environment. The beauty of eBay is you don't have to give an immediate answer. Like they're not in front of your face, you know? So like if you get like a really hard question, or somebody that you know is full of it and they've really touched a nerve, they're making you angry, my best advice, don't answer right away. Wait a couple hours. Think about it, chill out, wait till your blood's not boiling, and then answer. Because if you just get on there and start banging away a reply, it's probably not going to go so well, you know?
Yeah, that is a really, really good tip. Don't answer with your emotion in the moment, is how I see it. Wait, like you say, perfectly there, that you wait till you've simmered down and you can answer with your brain is the key, because, you know, we all want to say something in the moment and you have to really hold back. So yeah, put that email, mark it as unread, leave it there till the morning if you like, and come back to it. I think is a great tip.
Although I do want to just point out, eBay do like you to reply as quickly as possible.
Oh yeah, temporary.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah, no, it's just something. I think it was one of these seminars that they talked about. You know, like the online webinar things. They were like, you know, we try to get back as quickly as possible. But yeah, I think just the fact that the person's not in your face, take advantage of that. Definitely, like Lonnie says, you know, you're not on the spot.
Just reading some things in here. Oh, Lisa says that, yes, she paid £10 for Bag Puss, who used to sit around on these shelves and move around a bit. And I bought him for 50p, but Lisa was more than happy with the item. So and I think further down, Peter Ray says there that he bought the One Foot in the Grave box set. And yet, you know, a few days before, he'd seen that I'd paid £2 or £3 for it. So yeah, it's interesting. Oh, Kirsten's in there. She says, evening, Tat Chat, ? What day is it? This is just a new guest slot on Thursdays. So yeah, it will confuse people for a couple of weeks. So another one, did you have any to hear? Oh no, you were saying about customer service. Another one I thought of, oh, it's just gone out of my head. I just had it right there. Oh my God.
Write it down, Nick. You're the same age. You got to write the stuff down.
I've done the one I did write down. Oh, I tell you what it was. It's more something that I've learned since doing this. I was very shy back in the beginning and before I started reselling, and it's taken me a long time, but I am so much more comfortable getting out of my comfort zone and negotiating with people, sparking up a conversation that could lead to a deal. all of those things. And it still surprises me to this day that I'm here on YouTube chatting to hundreds, sometimes thousands of people that will in the end watch my videos, because, you know, I couldn't have imagined that 15 years ago. I was that much more shy. So that's something I've learned, and it has benefited my business no end. Have you guys found that?
Lonnie, go ahead.
Wait, I'm sorry. I was typing a message in chat. I missed like the last 10 seconds of what you said. I'm sorry.
Have you found that it's benefited you to come out of your shell, or were you already a sort of outgoing person?
Oh, no, I was not. I was not an outgoing person. Still am not. Like I do really well, I think, one-on-one, small groups.
Yeah.
But like, you know, 2 or 3 people or so, I have like a really small circle of friends. I don't go outside. So yeah, YouTube has really helped me with that, especially getting involved with the Six Pack Show and getting involved with some other people in the past. I mean, it's been huge for me.
And has that sort of bled into your reselling? Has it given you more confidence to approach people and start up a conversation and get the things flowing? Because that's what it's done. That's what I've learned over the years, to talk to people. When I come up to a store, quite often I'll just start chatting. If I think, you know, it might help me out with a deal, or I see they've got loads of good stuff, you know.
Absolutely, man. Like I could, like after this show, I could turn on my webcam and just blah, 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 and never skip a beat. I could talk from doing YouTube, and I could do the same thing whenever I go up to a yard sale. You know, I could talk to the people about their dog, about their stuff, about the weather, whatever it is I think they want to talk about, I can do it.
Yeah. And that is a skill. It's being able to talk to a stranger about whatever and get out of the information you want, or find out what they've got in their house, or find out information. It really works.
Yeah, I think luckily for me, I've never really felt too, you know, I've never found that too awkward myself at first. One thing I have learned though from doing YouTube, especially, it's more the networking. Like I'm fine if you put me in a situation, like if I'm in a group of people and I've got to speak, I'll do that fine. Or if I'm already in like already in an environment such as going to a boot sale, I'll have no trouble going and striking up a conversation with a random seller. You know, that's fine. But actually making links online, it's very different. And I sometimes I feel a bit old because of it, because, you know, creating a networking online is a little bit different. And it's something I'm getting used to. And I think doing like YouTube has actually helped me with that. But in the real world, I've always been kind of, yeah, I'll talk to anyone. Doesn't bother me.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just I feel like I would have thought I'd be fine online as well, but no, not as.
Yeah, it's sending out those sort of reaching out emails and stuff.
Yeah, I still don't do that. Yeah, that's why no one's been on my show yet.
Yeah, that's your challenge for this.
That's my challenge. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, let's have a look in the chat.
Let's have a look.
Yuri says, doing door-to-door sales killed any anxiety or nervousness talking to strangers. See, that's a job I would hate with a passion. Going cold calling, because I was a business owner for many years on the high street, we would get all sorts of people coming. We get cold calls on the phone all day, and we get businesses coming in trying to sell me stuff. And it used to wind me up. And I used to resent those people. I know they were just doing a job, but God, those guys wound me up. So yeah, you're brave doing that job. I wouldn't like to be on the other side of the fence with that.
No, indeed.
So did we have any other points? What else did you have down there, Lonnie?
Well, okay, so here's another point I had. Was it okay? I already knew. I think one of the most important things with online sales is your images, your pictures, right? Your photos. So I already had a lot of experience with photography. You know, I did a lot of portrait photography and stuff like that. So one of the skills I brought was photography, but also one of the things I had to learn was eBay photography. Like eBay photography is not the same as like portrait photography, because with eBay photography, you have to take pictures that are good, but just take pictures that are good enough. Otherwise, you know, like, man, when I first started, I would take my pictures in RAW format, I'd bring them into Lightroom and make adjustments, and I would crop them just right. Next thing I know, I've spent, you know, 15 minutes on the photos for one product. I'm going to make $10, $15 on it. It didn't make sense. So now I have a decent light setup, and I take all my photos with my iPhone, and my photos are great. I have people all the time saying, wow, what do you take your photo? You know, what kind of camera do you have? And I'm like, iPhone 5S, you know, it's like, so I think it's like knowing what points. One thing I had to learn was being okay in some places with mediocrity, and my relative mediocrity, you know, just doing things good enough when it made sense.
Yeah, I'd agree, actually. Doing enough so it's a quality listing, but so you can get things done. Like you say, if you got hung up on the details, yeah, you can just take way too long on each listing, and we need to bash them out.
Yeah, pretty much. I think that leads on to something that's also been on my mind since we discussed this topic, is when you first start out in this reselling, there are actually a number of skills like that you have to like learn from the ground up, and you have to find out in each one of these how best to do it. So like you said, Lonnie, photography is one of those things, you know, like people don't know often, you know, how to take the right photos for it, because there is, you know, just to get it right, just to find the right balance. So for example, like you said, not to go too far and too technical into it, but also not to be so poor that your photos don't stand out, you know, in the like thousands of listings that are out there. Same thing applies to shipping and packaging. When you first start out, you have to find out and work out how best you know, how you find, you know, what the best method and most efficient method of packaging is. Like I remember when I first started out, I would bubble wrap the hell out of things, and at that point I hadn't discovered the joys of large bubble wrap. So I was shipping kind of heavy items, and I was using small bubble wrap, and that meant I was having to just wrap and wrap, and I didn't at that point have the experience to know that actually if I get like an old cardboard box and just flatten it out and just roll this thing into the cardboard box, I'll minimize the amount of packaging I'm going to have to use, the amount of time I'm spending on it. Nick laughed there because I remember, I think he saw one of my videos where I've like mummified this thing, right?
You did a live stream,
yeah,
of your like morning's work.
Yeah, I don't know why.
We were chatting away, and you packaged the crap out of this like CD player. Like you bubble wrapped it and boxed it, and then you put the box in more bubble wrap in another box. And I'm like, Jesus, have you bought shares in bubble wrap? What the hell are you doing? But I get it, because especially early on, I think the whole packaging thing is a big deal, and you're right. People are scared of that. People also don't know how to attack it. And sometimes I talk to people who don't do eBay, and they're like, you have to send all this stuff through the post? Like that's some big deal. And we forget that when we've been doing it for a few years, we just do it almost in our sleep these days. It's just like we churn through it. But I think that is a big sticking point for a lot of people coming in, and it's quite something that they fear, and it's working out how do you know how much it's going to cost you to send is a question I still get on a daily basis on my YouTube channel. And it's just, like,
exactly.
Just work it out. But
exactly.
That's a sticking point for a lot of people.
Another simple thing was descriptions as well. I mean, I remember when I first started, again, you know, I wanted to make sure I was covered. You know, how deep do the descriptions go? How accurate? You know, how do you describe a color of something? How many, you know, blemishes? Like when do you stop mentioning blemishes? Like, do you say, for example, on this, there's a mark on the front right, and then there's like a mark on the front left, and on the rear right, on the top, there's a 2 centimeter mark, and there's another mark. And I'd be thinking at that level, and over time you learn and you figure stuff out. And And this stuff seems so basic, right? I mean, it seems so simple. Of course, you don't. And now I just cover it with, yeah, it's got a few marks and where, see photos for the detail.
Right.
I've got all that way, you know, from, and it's not affected anything because the quality of the photos helps to show, you know, I've learned obviously that if there are marks, to photograph them specifically, and then that just helps, and then it matches up with my description.
Exactly.
And I don't have any issues. But these simple things, yeah.
Over time, you learn a few key phrases like general wear and tear, see photos for detail. I put that in just about every listing or something similar, or wear consistent with its age. That sort of
thing. It means nothing.
It means nothing, but it's like it's in there.
Right.
And I said, look at the pictures, and in the pictures show all the marks.
Exactly.
But you're right. When we start, you hear about all of these horror stories and returns, and we get hung up on those things. And I can't remember it so long ago, but I'm sure I was the same, and being paranoid about, hang on, there's another mark there. Hang on, where's that? I've got to describe this one. And you don't have to go to those lengths, but it's a minefield for newbies, definitely.
I think everybody goes through a process. Like when they first start, they exaggerate to the good. Like it's in great shape. It's in awesome condition. It's very good. Excellent. They use words like that. And then they get burned a few times. So then they go to the other extreme and they start, bashing their product, which is not good either.
Yeah.
So then you've got to find that middle ground and say, hey, look for yourself, buddy. It's right here. There's pictures.
Yeah,
I took them.
You're right. Early on, you become reactionary to every bad feedback you get, every return you get. You think, I've got to readdress my whole business plan. You don't. That's just one person's opinion. But over time, you learn that stuff. I just want to dip in the chat again. There's loads of funny comments coming in. People's £10 for epoxy bag piss. I think that's just taking a mickey out of me and my comments in other people's videos. Swamp Picker says, smash the like button. Indeed, if you enjoy what we do, please show us some love with the smashing of the like button.
There's 138 people watching, so
fantastic. Well, at least people have found us in our new time slot, which is good. The Tuesday show is still going on Tuesday. This is a different slot. I know I'm going to confuse people with this. Apparently, Lonnie, you're Lisa's toy boy. Don't know if you saw that there, but
oh wow, okay.
Do with that what you will. That's up to you.
Look, Jory's saying in the chat that he's super. This is a good point. He's super descriptive if it's high value. Yep. So, I mean that an ordinary item, I think, is what we were referring to. But yeah, if it's something that's really high value, Z, you deal with a lot of stuff like that. Bet you get more descriptive.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I actually just have one template and I adjust it accordingly. But yeah, I suppose if it's super high value, I think somewhat, I'll make sure that I'll, say that if it's been fully tested or whatever. I mean, yeah, you can adjust it, can't you?
Yeah, I think we all put a lot more care and thought into the listings of, £100 plus items, a lot more pictures, a lot more detail, a lot more description, because obviously somebody at the other end is going to invest a lot of money in it, and you want them to see every angle and know about every fault. It's only natural.
And you think of it, those are just three things we've thought of the top of our heads that you have to quickly learn, as you pick up and find your spot in that spectrum. And there's more than that as well, I'm sure. I mean, there's oh God, let me just off the top of my head, just trying to figure out what other things I learned. You become like little specialists in these things, don't you? You become like you take your time and you literally become a specialist in. So, for example, even replying to customers as well. Finding quick ways of doing that. Having like a stock almost reply in your head because you build up a database of the kinds of questions that you get. Or learning from the kinds of questions that you get. I mean, I remember that there was a point where when I was, I think it was either selling clothes or shoes, when I was doing a lot of those, I was getting a lot of a certain type of question. I think it was about a certain measurement. And that got me to think, obviously, I'm missing out this important measurement in my listings, which is meaning I'm having to answer these unnecessary questions. So I learned to adapt my listing to avoid more of those questions.
Exactly.
Little things like that. So
I think what's coming out is it's hard for us to get in the headspace of where we were when we started, and it's just a natural progression. And really, the only way and the only big tip we can say to somebody who's perhaps scared of some of these things or worried about starting is jump in with both feet, because you will learn this stuff the same way we did, through experience. I mean, take some of these hints and tips and you can perhaps see it coming, but there's nothing better than jumping in with both feet and having a go.
Yeah, I think it shows that everyone has to go on their own journey, and you know, you're gonna have to go through these awkward little sections and moments that, you know, before you get somewhere where you're efficient and quick. I mean, I think I did see David McGregor talk about he's always looking to streamline and make everything as efficient as possible, because of his previous career. And it's like, ideally, that's what we all want to do, don't you? You want to make sure that taking photos is efficient, editing them is efficient. You know, you want to make sure that your listing process is efficient. I think obviously it's not so much of a big deal now, but before, when eBay's listing page wasn't so slick, I suppose, there were a lot of other options. People used to use Turbo Lister, and you know, and I think people still use a lot of third-party applications to make their listings more efficient.
Yeah, if anything, I've pared down what I do so much. I put a lot less thought and time into my description. I bash through my pictures quicker even now, and for me, it's about getting it on there, and I'm confident that the stuff will sell. And I try and spend less time doing the listing if I can to get.
You're better off having 2 pretty good listings rather than 1 really good listing. You know, I mean, unless you're selling Rolex watches or something, right? I mean,
yeah. It's all relative to how the value of it, how much care and time you put in. But we've all done this, I swear. When you're doing your research and you come across an item similar to what you list and you go into it, it's got a crappy picture in the dark, in the corner.
right.
The title is Super Nintendo game. The description is Super Nintendo game. I think it works. And they sold it for top dollar or top pound, whatever you'd say. And you're like, holy crap, if that guy can sell it, I can sell mine so easily. But we all see those listings and you think, who bought that? Who trusted this guy with their money?
But, you know, I think that's what you run into, though, whenever you're talking about like products that are like commodities almost. Like board games or video games. They're like known quantities, right? Everybody knows what they are. So the picture doesn't really matter that much. They're all the same. So yeah, I mean, you just throw them up there and move on to the next one. Now, if you have something that's unique or special or expensive, maybe you spend a little more time.
Yep, I would agree with that. Sorry guys, I'm way behind in the side chat.
They're talking about goats right now.
Talking about goats, okay.
Goats, and that's a 6-pack thing, that is. I better zoom to the bottom and see where we're at. Sorry if I've missed any questions on the way. There was one that I've lost now that was saying somebody was new to the channel. I can't remember your name and I've lost the comment now, but they're saying, do we always find things we can make money on at boot sales? That's the plan. It doesn't always work out. I mean, Zaheer had a great example on his video. Go and check that out after you finished here, where sometimes you pick up stuff and it's a dud. In that case, your camera didn't work out. But yeah, that's the plan. And we don't have any trouble finding things to make money on, but it's always a bit of a lottery. You never know what you're going to pick up.
Finding things is actually another example of another skill that you will hone and become better at as well.
To be honest, sometimes I'm just as, to be honest, sometimes I'm just as proud when I don't find anything, because then I knew that I actually exercised some discipline.
Wow, that's
You know, I'm like, okay, I was particular, you know.
I probably lack that aspect of discipline. I'll be honest.
But I do feel that when you go out there and you're looking for things, at first you do have, again, it's trying to remember what it was like. But lucky for me, I mean, Rebecca's is very, very early on in her reselling journey, and I remember the first time she came to the boot sale with me, with the specific intention of buying something to resell on her store. And she was really like, she'd been to the boot sale with me hundreds of times before, right? But she knew she was just coming with me, and I'm picking stuff up for the main store. It's fine. So because it was the first time she came with that specific intention of finding things to resell on her store, she was panicking. She was like, "Oh my god, I'm not going to find anything. I'm not going to see anything. What's going to happen if I don't find anything?" And you have to kind of work your way through that and know that keep positive and you will find stuff. And now she's at the stage where she's able to make deals and even buy job lots now, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I guess we've all had that moment where we think, is the stuff going to be out there? Whenever a new boot sale season starts, no matter how many years I've been doing this, I think, is it going to be the same this year? Will I find loads of good stuff? I still have that inner worry, which is bizarre. I was just reading some stuff. Blitz was saying about taking 2 or 3 pictures and sum up the item, and he uses Crazy Lister. I've not heard of Crazy Lister before. I guess that's a listing tool.
Yeah, I would say probably 4 or 5 photos is an average for me, and then I try and get away with 1 sentence in the description if I can at all. If I need more, I'll use it, but I would probably say average 2 sentences in the description.
Yep. What I tend to do now is I have most of the information I need in my title about what it is, so I will copy that directly into my description. I will copy my little description box into my main description. If it needs any more, it will just be another sentence, but it's generally 2 or 3 lines unless it's something that needs more.
Are you talking about condition box, Nick? You copy. I could copy condition to the description.
Yep.
Because the eBay app typically only shows the condition right up top.
Yeah, there's a little condition box that you fill in, but I just stick that in my main description as well. And then,
my condition is my description, pretty much.
Me too.
It is. I mean, and one thing I think that was one of the early things I learned was that eBay, when it comes to cases and resolving any potential issues, even though it's never actually helped me out in any way so far, eBay only apparently they only take into consideration things that you've written in the condition box rather than the description. So when it comes to disputes over whether you described an item correctly in terms of its condition or whether in terms of its functionality, and for example, if you're selling a bundle as well, if you're going to list what's in the bundle, I'd still list it in the conditions box, just so that there's no dispute. If they say, oh, you said this bundle had X, Y, Z in it, but I only got X and Y, but then you can.
That's interesting. They might as well do away with the main description if they're going to be like that.
You now have to click on the desktop now. You kind of have to now click the description button, and it opens the description box in a new tab. They're like they've pushed it. Yeah, it's weird.
I've not noticed
on mobile, right?
Yeah, mobile.
No, I think it's when I'm looking at completed listings on the desktop. So if I go to a sold listing of an item, and like go to the description, for some reason it doesn't have it.
Yeah, like this is an item on the mobile app. Yeah. You don't see the description unless you tap that little see description button.
Well, yeah, they've now got that on the desktop. It says see full description. The description, yeah. I mean, it's there. It has got the item description, but it's only a small box, and you have to press see full description. Then it opens the full description in a new tab.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting what you said about eBay customer service. Only going on what you put in your description box. I mean, condition.
Yeah, condition box is the one that they take note of.
But yeah, the little one at the top. So yeah, that's interesting. Something I didn't know.
Well, that's what I heard ages ago from Scavenger Life, and I trust them. So.
Oh yeah, there is a lot of goat talk going on. We're talking about Devon and Namibia here as well. I'm lost.
Yeah, I think Lisa's been trying to get people to believe she's from
Namibia.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why, but
yeah, talking about the price of goats. It's a whole other world in our side chats these days. I can't keep up with what on earth's going on in there. Okay, I thought while I've got it here, this arrived earlier, and I think I know what it is. It's an eBay return. I sold at a Village Fete. I picked up a load of stuff, and it included a backgammon set, a Harrods one. I'm pretty sure that's what this is. But they opened, well, they said it wasn't as described. They said it was in terrible condition and blah, blah, blah. It really wasn't. And I said, okay, return it. This was like 3 weeks ago or more. And this arrived today, so I assume it's it. So I thought I'd open it live. Yeah, is it? And just see if I get the same item back.
Hopefully you did.
Yep, looks like it.
So what's wrong with the condition?
Absolutely nothing is wrong with the condition.
Oh, it's just, yeah, they just didn't want it.
The inlays were peeling off. There is nothing wrong with this whatsoever. I don't think it was ever used, to be honest.
Wow.
Things are still in packages. There's not one bit of this peeling anywhere. So
Must have just,
they wanted him to pay the return shipping. That's all.
Yep, that's what's happened.
yeah, that's frustrating. That's just like, that reminds me of my valve amp where the guy said he took it to a local repair shop and and they couldn't get it to work either, and came back and touch with it all works.
I tell you, one thing that you do learn and you have to grow to adapt to is A, growing a pretty thick skin, and then B, to accept these things, accept the return cost and move on. You have to look at the big picture. You say, okay, I made X amount of money doing this last month. I can swallow £3 or whatever it's cost me to get that back, and my £3 to send it out or whatever it is. It's a tiny amount. If you focus on those things that go wrong, if you focus on, like Zaheer's camera today and this return for me today, if that was my focus, I'd go nuts. You focus on what's going well, you focus on how much you might have made for the whole month, and this is just a cost of doing business. And that took a long time for me to really understand.
And that's definitely a mindset that you have to learn. You know, it's not something that you're necessarily gonna, your natural reaction is going to be different, isn't it? But you have to realize that we're all bound by these rules and these expectations that buyers have, and you know, we need the buyers. So it's very important that we can adapt to that. I mean, like, I'm not going to sit here and mope about, you know, whatever money I've lost, or I'll just look, like you said, just look at the positive side. What you know, where I've done well, rather than.
Yeah, I was just reading Joe, my Pack Rats comment. If you haven't seen it, check out the hangout we had. That was a great chat. He says, Nick, instances like that backgammon board, you should be able to complain and get your shipping back. I doubt it. I mean, I could try. I'm always willing to try. And this is another thing I've learned: phoning up eBay and complaining about stuff, or just asking the question, quite often gets results. It's the same with Amazon. It's worth putting yourself out there and getting on the phone. So
I actually was offered money back on you know, again, going back to that valve amp, where I had to pay shipping for it to come back to me. I rang up eBay to complain about it, and they did offer me the money back. But this is an example of where I lost my control. Now, they offered me the money back, but saying, as a one-time gesture, you know, we will be willing to give you your money back. But they weren't acknowledging that they were wrong, because I was ringing up, ranting at them how wrong this is, you know, how unfair I've been treated. And they were very clear in saying, we're happy to give you your £10 shipping back as a one-time goodwill gesture. They were emphasizing the goodwill, so explicitly saying, we're not agreeing that you're right. And I was so stubborn and angry. I refused the money.
Take the money. Take the money.
Yeah, I refused the money. I didn't take the money back. And afterwards, I was like, I should have taken the money.
Yeah. Take the money and still moan at them. I'd have both.
Yeah, but they weren't accepting that I was right.
I think our ego gets in the way so many times, doesn't it? I know mine does.
Oh, yeah.
it wasn't about the money in the end. It was about your ego, and they weren't making that feel good, right? And it's like,
yeah,
You have to swallow that one.
cost me a tenner.
Joe said to you, Zaheer, you know that Sony D5 machine Joe picked up in his last.
Oh, I've just seen, yeah.
Let's pick your advice and bump the price up a bit. Fingers crossed at $129.99.
It's a vintage machine. That definitely, it deserves it. Make sure it's on global shipping or international shipping, and hopefully you'll get your money for that, because that is a lovely machine.
I think that will sell.
Yeah.
Nick, Bumcrack Picker has a question for you in the chat.
You just wanted to say that.
He wants to know if did you re-sniff the backgammon to see if it was the same one?
Re-sniff it. I haven't given it a good sniff.
Same one, Nick?
Smells fine.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's the genuine one. Yeah. Excellent. I was going to ask you, Lonnie, because how long have you been full-time reselling for now?
About 3 years, a little more than 3 years.
About 3 years. So what would you say have been the hardest things, learning curve-wise, to get your head around doing this full-time?
I would say just learning what items to pick up and what items not to pick up. Because, when you first start, you don't really know that much. And I feel like you buy too many items. And, I used to think that all old stuff was valuable because it was old. And, I didn't know how important condition was for items. Man, when I first started, I didn't even know anything about video games, like which video games to pick up and stuff like that. Or, I think the item knowledge is the biggest thing that I had to pick up on, and still am. I'm still learning every day, obviously.
I think that's a really good point, Lonnie, because it dawns on you sometimes that you have to get educated on and when I mean educated, the more educated you are, the more specialist you are, the better, right? And you've got to become a specialist in so many different areas. It's actually if you think of it, like, sit back and think of that, that's like a huge task. But right now, as you sit there 3 years in, same as me basically, I can look back and think, wow, I know so much now, so much more now than I did. I almost feel like Neo, like in the Matrix, when I know Kung Fu, it plugs. I almost feel like that, like that I sit one evening, except it's not as cool as plugging in an SD card and I go, I know Kung Fu. I'll sit like an evening or two and I will probably research. It might be something I've picked up or whatever, and then you just research, and you pick up so much knowledge.
I think the biggest realization that I had early on, like within the first year, was like when I first started, I was like, man, this is easy, because I hit some home runs right away. I was like, man, this is easy. I know everything I need to know to do this. And then I hit some hard times, and then I was like, wait. And I had a realization where I said, okay, I don't know everything. I'm okay with it, and I'm willing to learn. You have to get to that point where you're okay with not knowing everything, and just being okay with the ignorance and opening yourself up to gathering knowledge, and that's where I had to get to.
Definitely. Yeah. Continually learning, continually pushing yourself to try new things.
Yes.
Like you just said, you have a good day, and it's like, you can't really afford to take your foot off the throttle, because those sales are gone and you're only as good as what you're going to sell tomorrow, really. So it's like, it's that relentlessness of it that kind of takes a while to get used to. It's like, this doesn't stop. You have to keep feeding the beast, as we say, with Amazon and eBay listings, and just keep pushing. Yeah,
absolutely.
Southwest Seller says, Z, eBay do not make me mad. Have you ever seen a guy with a very red face? Because my face is always red in the camera.
You're a kind of interesting shade of red today.
Yeah. So.
That's a sign of health and good circulation, Z. Don't let that bother you.
It's the camera. I'm not this red in real life. I'll take that, Lonnie.
Well, the only problem with that is that when I saw you next to Bex and Nick and Andrea the other day, their faces weren't equally red.
No. They weren't, were they?
It's quite odd. Even right now, just watching Zaheer and thinking it was only a few days ago I was there. It feels ages ago. Like, was I really there? It's all a bit odd.
Blah.
It's quite surreal. I was just reading Idaho Hillbilly says in the chat, I've been in this game for 30 plus years. That's quite impressive itself. And then he says, I'm still learning something new every day. And that is, it really is the beauty of what we do. It's not like you're doing a 9 to 5 where you kind of master your role and you're done within a year or something, and then you just churn it out day in, day out. We are adapting what we do every day, and we are learning new skills every day.
And even in areas that you might think you're a specialist in, this is the funny part about it, because of the nature of what we do. You know, we want to sell items. Every niche that you're a specialist in is constantly changing and growing. So you need to keep up to date with it as well. So it's no good if you know everything about, you know, high-end hi-fi up till 2017, because in 2018, 19, 20, there's going to be more stuff coming out, new stuff, new technologies, new manufacturers. And if you're not up with it, you're going to lose out on those opportunities. And, you know, all that other knowledge is great. You've got to have it for when you see those things, but you've also got to have the new knowledge as well. So I think that it's constant.
It's a really good point, because we resell stuff.
Yeah.
And stuff, new stuff is appearing on the market every day. Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah. It evolves continually.
The stuff changes and our buyers change. They're aging. We're aging.
Yep.
You know, everything.
Yeah. I mean, in the time I've been reselling video games, PS1 used to be that, oh God, there's a pile of PS1 games.
Yeah.
People used to bring in, when I started our shop, people would come in with bags full of PS1 games, and I couldn't even be asked to look through it. I'd turn them away. I'd turn away carrier bags full. These days, if you're at a car boot sale, it's like, Jesus, there's a bag of PS1 games over there.
Right. Yeah.
In the relatively short time I've been doing this, everything's shifting forward, because back then I was hunting for NES, SNES, N64 just started becoming collected. Now they're like gold dust, and now it's PS1, and it's starting to be certain PS2 titles, and it all slowly moves. So you've got to keep up with all of that. The fact that kids that were playing PS1 are now 20s and beyond, you know, and they're starting to collect their childhood already.
And it comes down to availability too, right? Like a lot of the stuff, the NES and SNES stuff, it's just simply not available in the quantities it used to be available in, because it's already been cleared out.
Yep.
So, I mean, you have to kind of move with the market for sure. But yeah, man, I mean, just knowing what you don't know, right? I think that's our understanding, you know, knowing that you don't know, and it's okay. I think that's a good place to be.
Yeah, and I've recently experimented with filming at car boot sales and filming at jumble sales, and every time I miss stuff, and my viewers will say, Nick, you went straight past her, whatever, and I do, and I know I do, and I'm not going to pretend I don't, because I don't know everything. I can't take in everything at every table, and my focus is going to be taken by the certain stuff I tend to look for first. But it's quite an eye-opener, the fact that and I put a photograph of Andrea in a charity shop a few weeks back on Facebook, and one of our followers on there said, did you see that thing on the shelf in the background? On the photo, it was like this big. It was a CD box set that he knew was worth money. I did actually see it and pick it up, but that just blew my mind. People are that good at seeing stuff, and sometimes seeing stuff that I completely missed.
Just one other thing to add to that leads to yet another skill as well. Over the time that you've been learning and picking things up, you can also learn what quality is as well. So even though you might not know that something is worth a lot of money, and you might not be as up to date as you should be, sometimes you can get by just looking for certain things in certain items, you know, whether that's high-end clothing, electronics, it doesn't matter. I mean, in all of them, there are traits which will differentiate them from like the mass market regular price stuff and the really expensive stuff. And you pick that up as well. And that's another skill I think I've picked up since starting this.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Like the material something is made out of, it's clothing, or if like it's a certain kind of wood or some kind of brushed aluminum, or you could tell the machining is just really fine. You may have never seen it before, but if it's made really, if somebody took that much care to make something, it was probably worth a lot of money back then, and it's probably still got some value now. So that's a great point, man.
Yeah.
Should mention Peter Ray in the chat, Nick.
Yeah.
Super chat.
Have we been super chat? I didn't even see the super chat.
Peter Ray is super chatted £2. Great vids. Watched for a long time and enjoyed loads.
Wow, thank you so much, Peter. That's awesome. Very generous of you.
So cool when you get that, because it's just like, it's saying thank you for all the vids that you've put out. I mean, you must be on like what, 500 or 4? I don't know, how many vids have you got?
500, I think, somewhere about. Yeah, which
that's a severe amount of uploading.
Yeah, and going back to what we're saying, that reselling moves on and trends move on, and there's a kind of general thought that CDs don't make any money anymore, and I generally don't pick them up. But I think I shared on Facebook that I picked up that crate of rap CDs, must be a month or so back, paid £20 a lot, and I just knew there was a lot of import stuff, there was a lot of stuff that isn't really run of the mill, and I've made well over £200 on that one crate that I picked up already. But most crates of CDs wouldn't be worth picking up. So
Right.
it's that extra bit of knowledge, it's that bit of experience, and it pays off. So yeah, so don't always, because I've seen people in other videos saying CDs aren't worth the time of day, DVDs don't bother with, but there are some, and if you have the knowledge, you can still make money in certain niches.
Absolutely. What do you do with all the stuff? Like if you buy a big lot, Nick, what do you do with the like unsellable stuff? And I know this is kind of controversial, do you send it into that Music Magpie? Have you ever used that?
Yeah, I cashed £55 worth of checks from them today.
Yep. I sent a big load into, it's called Declutter in the States. I sent a big load into Declutter yesterday myself. So I was just curious if you use that.
And last time I mentioned clearing stuff to there's a few companies in the UK that I use, but Magpie, the big one. And I said that I get them to send me checks rather than a bank balance. I know it's more quicker and efficient to do the bank balancing, but they screwed up some of my payments before. So I switched back to check. I find that easier to keep track of as well.
Declutter just switched. When I sent in my shipment yesterday, they actually offer PayPal now.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's better for you or not, or if they offer it over there.
Yeah, it's that whole, I've been bitten once, so I switched back to paper stuff. It's probably daft, but yeah, I do use those for the stuff. Mind you, with that crate of wrap stuff, I pulled out all the good stuff, sent loads up to Amazon. I've had some really good sales out of that. Sold a load on eBay individually, and what was left, because it was all in one genre of wrap, and this was the sale that I shared yesterday, I think it was, what I had left that wasn't worth much to resell, I still got £40 as a bundle. So that doubled my investment on what was the crap stuff. And it's not crap music. I was chatting to Zaheer about this. It was some good stuff in there, but it was stuff that wasn't worth anything individually.
And that's because you were able to just spot it. I mean, sometimes it can be as simple as knowing a certain label or a certain run or whatever, and that's the kind of knowledge, that's like the little niche knowledge that can really give you an edge.
Definitely. Okay, well, let me just check in the chat. We've been running for over an hour already, guys, which every time it just blows my mind. So I guess we'll wrap this one up soon. Did you have any more points written down, or did we cover everything, guys?
I think we've been pretty what's the word when you're comprehensive?
Yes.
That's the word. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, that went really well. We were having a chat before we set this up. We were like, let's have a topic, guys. What should we do? And we were all like, everything's been done to death, weren't we?
but not by us, is what y'all said. We haven't done it, damn it.
Exactly. We haven't talked about it, so Sonic will do it anyway. No, that was really good. I really thank Lonnie for coming on. It's always a pleasure.
Kirsten says, thanks for the bonus chat. It's actually going to be ongoing, isn't it, Nick? So there's just more content now because we've moved.
Yeah, how it's working is the Tuesday Tap Chats are every Tuesday, but once it alternates. So one in every 2 weeks. It's not on my channel, so I'm going to do this Thursday one instead, just so I've got a live chat going out on my channel every week. So the Thursday thing is going to be a regular bi-weekly guest slot. As long as I can find someone who wants to come and chat with me, there'll be a show. So there we go.
Thanks again for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. It was fun.
No, absolutely, always a pleasure.
Oh, Ronnie just popped into the chat right at the end, just as we're finishing up.
I can't see him.
Yeah, just pops in and says, "What's up, boys?" Right at the end.
Heart pickers.
Yeah, heart pickers.
Excellent. Okay, so thanks Zaheer again for hosting with me.
No worries.
And thanks, Lonnie. I will see you in the chat. I won't be. I'm sure most people have seen by now. I'm stepping back from the 6-pack. It was just the timing was all wrong, and I was burning the candle at both ends. Wasn't good, but I thoroughly enjoyed my time. So thank you so much for letting me be part of that while I was.
Totally understood, man. I totally get it. I've had to pull back from YouTube at various times too. And especially I appreciate you doing it as long as you did, because it was like 1 a.m. And I think the last one we did was like 3 friggin' hours. So I totally understand, man. But I do appreciate you joining us.
That last one was after driving back from Zaheer's and then going live. And then it was like, what do you mean we're going on? I was like, holy crap. And I just had to step out of here and I was nodding off. Excellent. Okay, so we'll wrap this up here. Thanks for all your questions and all your chat. I'm sorry if we didn't keep up with it as usual. It's so hard to keep focus on both things. We will see you at the weekend, hopefully, with Andrea for our Sunday one. And then we'll be back on Tuesday we're back on this channel, aren't we, on Tuesday?
Yes, we are, yeah.
So I'm finding it hard to keep up with now. Okay, thanks, guys. And we will see you soon. Take care.
See you later.
Bye, guys.